Was actually planning on making this video Tuesday, 2 days ago, since my posting schedule is Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. However, I flew into Johannesburg on Tuesday morning for a friend's wedding that evening, and you know how it goes. One thing leads to another. You land, then you have to rent a car. Then by the time you get to the hotel we're staying at, it's already like late on in the morning. Then you have this like whole truckload of work you have to get done, and then you go out for lunch with some friends, and you got to get back and get ready for the wedding, get as much work done again as possible, and then you got the wedding, and then by the time it's like you get to like 12 o'clock that night and you're absolutely zonked, finished from like the flight, the 2 hours of sleep, etc., etc. Hence why I didn't post. I do apologize for that, and why I'm making this video today. So I wanted to tell you a brief story, and the point of the story is to speak about the power of consistency and how important that is. Now, yes, I know the internet is full of people saying how important consistency is, etc., etc. However, because this is something that resonates with me and it's something that I had to go through myself, I think it is why I should share it, and why I think it could be valuable for you guys to hear. So, as some of you might know from whether it's my blog, my LinkedIn posts, whatever it is, and for those of you who don't know, I have a history of being very inconsistent, let's say that. I started working at the end of 2016 in the insurance world, and I stayed in that for about 3 to 3.5 years for 2 different companies. And the thing is, I always saw the insurance as a means to an end, which that was my first problem, because I thought that would be like my sustaining job, and then I can work on my hobbies / my business ideas. And that's where the problem came in. I was never relentlessly focused and consistent on the insurance because I saw it as a means to an end, but also because the businesses that I wanted to start I treated as a side hobby and as almost being, subject to this shiny object syndrome. I also didn't really see much progress in that. So I went to, dabbling a few months in the Forex and stock markets, and then went on to trying drop shipping, and then a marketing agency, and then a solar panel idea, then an insurance idea, then a real estate idea. But I never really saw anything through, because I had that mindset of, you test something out for 3 months, and if it doesn't work out, then it just isn't meant to be. I know, right? Like, what the hell? You can't expect to see any results within 3 months. That's absolutely ridiculous. So I just had this very terrible habit of being extremely, extremely inconsistent. And this pattern was very real up until, I would say, mid-2020, when COVID hit and I became very obsessed with fitness. So, I did a lot of home workouts, I did some running, etc. And then when 2021 came along, me and the crew I had started running with, we decided we're going to plan our own marathon, get the course certified, etc. Have maybe like 100 people join us so that we can make an official race. And then we're going to train for a sub-3 marathon. So we did a 16-week relentless and brutal training program, but thankfully I managed to run the sub-3 marathon. And I think this was my first introduction to seeing what is actually possible when A, you're hyper-focused on one mission, B, you work incredibly hard, and C, you're incredibly consistent. And then after that marathon, I bought a bike and started swimming, and that was my introduction to triathlon, which I did for a solid 1.5 years, nearly 2 years, I would say, where to the point where I was even training to go pro. Like, I was doing many, many weeks of 20 plus hours, like 14 to 15 hours of cycling, 3 to 4 hours of running, and then, 2.5 hours of swimming. And that's where I got my first introduction to being, not my first, my second real introduction towards being consistent, but over a longer time period. And where I also learned to fall in love with just the boring, relentless, day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out slog of just doing the same damn thing every single day. And if you don't learn how to fall in love with that, or at least enjoy the little incremental wins that you can experience on a daily basis, whether it's a reply from a prospect that you got on an email, or a phone call that connected, or a deal that you signed, whatever it is, if you don't learn how to almost gain pleasure from that, or even just gain pleasure from being focused and working on something that you know this action that you're currently doing is going to, if continuously repeated over a long period of time, is going to compound into something much bigger. If you don't learn how to love that process, then there's not really much hope, because you can't do what I did and expect things to work out after 3 months' time. And earlier this year, so I started this growth partner agency that I have now last year, December. And it took me 7 months, 7 whole months before I signed my first clients. And those 7 months were brutal. I had to get rid of all my cycling equipment. I had to make loans. I had to borrow money from my brother's girlfriend to pay rent. Yeah, all of those terrible things just to be able to survive and sustain the work that I was putting into the agency. You know, thank God, after 7 months, I managed to sign my first clients, and now I'm here few months later. How am I? 3 months later, after that 7 months, actually now 4 months later, I've got 3 clients. You know, things are happening. I'm not nearly anywhere where I want to be, but I'm able to sustain my lifestyle, live the life that I want, etc., through the agency that I had built. So my point with all this being said is that I think the important thing is that you have to realize if you want something to drastically change, and for me that was, I wanted my financial situation to drastically change and not look the same as it did the past 7 years, then you have to make some sort of change, and you have to find that thing that if you make that change, it will then happen for you. So you have to find that thing, but then also you have to realize that you have to be hyper focused on one single mission, at least for the next, 5 to 7 years. And you have to put your all into that one mission and give it your all and be very, very, very consistent, because that is the only way you can experience that compounding effect that builds on itself day after day, week after week, month after month. So stay consistent.